Hello, welcome back. This is module 3 and I know this says module 2 and this is a mistake, my bad. So in all the applications we were working on before, we only had one window and we only had one zip file to work with. And when we compiled the application, we had one nib file. Nib file is just a compiled zip file. So with document-based applications, you could hit Command N or go to File, New File, and that would open up a new window, and that would work with a new document. So you could have multiple windows, but it's still the same zip file compiled into the same single nib file. Sometimes your application has multiple windows, and most of the time it does, at least about the application, and that's another window. So in this module, we're gonna learn how to create new windows in your applications and how to bring it up and use it. So instead of creating a new window, which is the default functional window, we're going to create an NS panel, which is a subclass of NS window, and it's kind of a smaller, less functional window. An example of NS panel is preferences in most of the macOS 10 applications. So this is my preview. This is the program to work with PDFs and images. And I can go to preview preferences and see this small window. So this is an NS panel. It looks like a single window, and it is a single window, but it's a bit different from this window. So the first difference is it could be a key window without being main window. So what I mean by key? The key window is a window which takes input. So let me see. Well, I can click on it, so that means it's a key, and if I can type, I could type here, and if I type from the keyboard, this is where the text goes. But if you look here, it still says preview. It doesn't say bookmarks or preferences, because the main window is still this. And if we go to window, this is the only window that is open is my PDF here, and this window is not in this list because, well, if user looks here, it probably wants to see windows with data, not preferences. So it's kind of low priority window. It also could be closed with the escape button. So if I have this close button, I can just click escape on my keyboard and it's gone. So let's create an NS panel and the same preferences window for my employees application. So this is the same application, nothing changed from last time. First thing I want to create is a new class. So I hit Command N and create a new Objective-C class, and we're gonna call it Preference Controller, and we're going to inherit from NS Window Controller. So it adds this little thing here, but I don't want it, so I just call it Preference Controller, NS Window Controller, and go next, create. So if I go to the H file, this is where I want to define a few things. Now I want to create a simple preferences window where I want to change the background color and set some options. So I want to have, well, for now, just two outlets. So IB outlet, and the first thing is the color well, and that's just a picker for a color. I'm gonna call it color well. And the other one is the checkbox, which we will represent as NS button, and I'm gonna call it checkbox. And the only action I want to have in this controller is, well, actually I have two actions because I have two outlets and they will do something. So first would be change background color. This would change the background color of my application, but we're not going to finish it today, I'm afraid. And this would change new empty document. So we're not going to write those methods today anyway. So this is fine. So we have a controller for our future window. We don't have the window yet. So first I want to create another class. And this time I want to create a app controller. And we inherit from NS object as usual. and save it, same place as usual. And in app-controller.h, I want to, in my application, to have this preferences window. So let's create a new variable called prefer. Well, it doesn't know about this class yet. And the thing you would do usually is import this h file we just created. But consider this. H file is just like inserting the whole file in there. And in this example, it doesn't really matter. We have a small file, so we won't lose much memory by doing it, but it's kind of useless because the only thing we want for this H file is to know that preference controller exists. So we don't need this data because we're not going to use it here. So instead of importing, I'm going to say class and just say preference controller. This tells the compiler that this class exists. So we're just saying, hey, just trust me, this class exists. So I can have this preference controller variable, and I'm going to call it preference controller. Well, no, I shouldn't start like this. And I want to have an action. I want to have an IB action, and this action would be called show preference panel. And this would of course show the panel itself. So let's go to my app-controller.m now. Now I really need to import it. So let's import preference controller.h. Now it says I don't have complete implementation. That's because I didn't implement something, and I didn't implement that single method I just created. So it's IB action show preference panel, and this panel does not exist yet because at this point we only have this variable. And that is not anything, it's just a pointer. So I need to create it, but before creating it, I have to check. Maybe this method was called before and that object was created. So I have to check if I don't have preference controller. So if it's null, then I want to say preference controller, and just as we usually do, say preference controller and alloc, and then initialize it. Okay. So now I want to show it because this was the purpose of this method. So I'm going to say preference controller show window and pass it self. So if my preference controller does exist at this point, this would be just ignored and I'm just going to show it. Okay. Let me create the window itself because all we have now is code but not an interface. So I'm going to say new user interface, select empty user interface and call it preferences. And I already have it. Yes, just replace it. I have it because I was working on this before the lecture. So first thing, I need to set the file owner of this new window because it was set and the file owner is nothing. So I want to select file owner, click here and say the file owner is preference controller. That. Now I want to actually create my window, and instead of having NS window, I'm going to have NS panel. So drag panel here, make it a bit smaller, and things I want here is a color well, like so, and a checkbox. So to make it faster, I won't actually care about design and editing, just checkbox and color well. So now I want this color well, when it's changed, to call change background. So change background here. Of course, I hit control click and drag it here. and same with the checkbox, like so. And I need to create outlets from file owner to the window. So I control click on file owner and I have those three outlets. So the checkbox would be the checkbox, the color well would be the color well, and I need the window as well. So this goes to the window. So for the window, it's a good idea to disable resizing, and we'll call it preferences. So this would be our panel that show up. So now we need to change the preferences controller. So it's right here. So first, we haven't implemented those two methods, and we're not going to. Just make it empty for now. And IB action for change, yeah, this one. So just empty, it's fine. So get rid of comments, and here I'm just going to write it myself. I'm going to say, yeah, init with window is fine, but I need an init. So I'm going to say ID init, and I want first of all to call super init with window nib name, and the name of my window would be, of course, preferences. And now I return myself. So something is wrong here. Yeah, forgot, well, equal, of course. Yep, so this should be working. When window did load, I'll need to call, I have it in place, so it looks fine. Let's run it. I don't have these preferences. That is because I didn't connect actually this menu item to showing my thing. So let's go to my main menu.zip file. I have this app controller here. So I go to remover, this is how my application is called, and command click on preferences, just like I did with any button or anything, and say show preferences panel. So now I should be able to do this, and I have my preferences panel. And for now it doesn't do anything because, well, this calls the empty method, but we're going to change it later. So this is how you create a new window, in this case a new NS panel window. Alright, that's it for the lecture 9. We're going to continue on this project next time. See you there, bye.